Good day everyone. My name is Minard Ganyetin, and this time I will discuss the adjustment cost and the labor demand. Since we already discussed the labor demand, so what is labor demand means? Labor demand refers to the number of hours of hiring that an employer is willing to do based on the various exogenous or internally determined variable it is faced with. Another definition is it is the quantity of labor services the firm would employ at each wage. In this presentation, we will focus on adjustment cost. A firm wishing to adjust the size of its workforce, however, will typically find that it's costly to make quick changes. A firm laying off a large number of workers, for instance, will certainly incur substantial cost when the experience and knowledge of those workers vanish from the production line. A firm wishing to adjust employment will find that hiring additional workers might be equally costly. The firm will have to process the job applicants through the personal office and train the new workers. So, what is adjustment cost? The expenditure that firm incur as they adjust the size of their workforce are called the adjustment cost. As you can see in this figure, in a symmetric variable adjustment cost, changing employment quickly is costly, and this cost increase at increasing rate. If government policy prevent the firm from firing workers, the cost of trimming the workforce will rise even faster than the cost of expanding the firm. Moreover, there are two types of adjustment cost: the variable adjustment cost and the fixed adjustment cost. Variable adjustment costs depend on the number of workers that the firm is going to hire or fire. For example, the cost of the training of new workers obviously depend on whether the firm hires 1 or 10 workers. In contrast, fixed adjustment costs do not depend on how many workers the firm is going to hire or fire. Some expenses incurred in running a personal's office are dependent of what number of job applicants or the number of pink slip that the office might be processing. So, let's focus first in variable adjustment cost. So, go back to this figure, the symmetric variable adjustment cost. Let's initially consider that the firm employment decision in the presence of variable adjustment cost. In this figure, illustrate one possible shape. For the firm's variable adjustment cost the shape is curve. As you can see in this figure, the curve shape. It costs the firm kining dollars or CO to hire additional 50 worker. It's also cost same in firing 25 workers. As it drones, kumbaga, mas costly mag-fire ng workers than to hire. This asymmetrical might be arise because of government policy that mandate employers to provide severance pay for workers who are laid off. Variable adjustment cost curve illustrated in this figure also incorporates the important assumption that the adjustment cost rise at an increasing rate, regardless of whether the firm is contracting or expanding. In other words, the marginal cost of adjustment is higher for the 50th worker hired than the 25th worker hired. Similarly, the cost associated with the handing out of the 25th pink slip are lower than the cost associated with handing the 50th pink slip. By the way, pink slip refers to the layoff of notification. It is a document or notice that inform an employee they are being terminated from their job due to downsizing or restructuring. In this figure, the slow transition to a new labor equilibrium when the firm faces variable adjustment cost. Variable adjustment cost encourage the firm to adjust the employment level slowly. The expansion from 100 to 150 workers might incur more rapidly than contraction from 100 to 50 workers. If government policies like tax firm that cut employment, it is easy to describe what happened to the firm employment as the firm attempts to hire or fire additional worker in the presence of variable adjustment costs. Suppose for an instant that the price of an output increase and that firm expect that this will continue indefinitely. We know that the increase in output will induce the firm to increase its employment, let's say from 100 workers to 150 workers. Because it is costly to make an immediate transition to a new equilibrium, the firm will produce slowly in hiring the additional worker as illustrated by the adjustment path A to B in this figure. A profit maximizing firm will find that it is not worthwhile to hire all the additional worker immediately because the cost resulting from hiring a large number of workers at the same time exceed the cost incurred when hiring just a few workers at the time. The same kind of slow adjustment occur if the firm faces a decrease in output price. The firm would then like to cut employment from initial level of 100 workers to 50 workers. Laying off too many workers at once, however, is disruptive. And this greater number of layoff, the higher the marginal cost of adjustment, the firm, therefore, will be cut employment slowly, as illustrated by the adjustment path from A to C in figure as drawn might arise if the government mandates make it difficult for firms to trim their workforce. So, let's now consider the case where all adjustment costs are fixed. And suppose that the firm is now hiring 100 workers but in response to an increase in output price. It would like to switch to a higher employment level of 200 workers. The instant the firm makes any change in its employment, whether adding 100 workers, the firm incurs this fixed adjustment cost. So remember, in fixed adjustment cost, do not depend on how many workers the firm is going to hire or fire. The firm then has two options. It can either choose to remain at its current employment level of 100 worker or adjust its employment to 200 workers. It is did not pay for the firm to adjust its employment slowly because the fixed adjustment cost will not incur regardless how many additional workers the firm actually hire. If the firm is going to adjust its employment, it might be as well as adjustment the optimal level immediately. The firm's decision will depend on which alternative yields higher profits. If the profits earned by maintaining the size of the workforce at 100 workers exceed the profits earned by adjusting to 200 workers, the firm will shy away from adjusting its labor force when the fixed adjustment costs are sizable. Therefore, employment changes in the firm will be sudden and large if they occur at all. So, in conclusion, the two type of adjustment cost, which are the variable adjustment cost and the fixed adjustment cost, have a very different implication for the dynamics of employment in the labor market. If the variable adjustment costs are important, employment changes occur slowly as the firm stagger their hiring and firing decision to avoid the high cost incurred when the making large changes in the size of the workforce. If the fixed adjustment costs dominate, the firm will either remain at its current employment level or switch immediately to a different employment level. So, in variable adjustment cost, ang naa sa iya is if mag-hire or fire ka ng mga workers, ang sa variable, if mag-hire ka, slowly. If mag-fire ka, slowly sub. Sa fixed adjustment cost, it's either i-remain nimo ang employment level or wala imo changes na buhaton or mag-switch ka into immediate different employment level. So kalito nimo pag taas ang imong employment level. So, next slide. The impact of employment protection legislation. So, what is this all about? Employment protection legislation, or the EPL, encompasses a range of laws, regulation, and agreements that aim to safeguard workers from fair dismissal and promote job security. While intended to protect workers' rights and promote fairness in the workplace, EPL can have a complex and multifaceted impact on labor market, economic growth, and overall societal well-being. So, here's a breakdown to the impacts of the protection and legislation in our employment. First, I will discuss the positive impact of employment protection legislation. Protection against unfair dismissal. Employment protection laws prevent employees from arbitrarily firing workers, offering a safety net against job loss. Next, insurance against job loss. By providing severance pay or other benefit, the laws help workers cope up with unemployment and maintain their financial stability during job transition. Next, encourages a long-term relationship. Stable employment foster workers' commitment and encourage the firm to invest in employment training and develop, leading to a higher productivity. So, let's move on to negative impact of employment protection legislation. Reduced job creation. The increased cost associated with layoff, like severance pay, legal processes, can discourage firms from hiring new workers, especially during economic downturns. Next, labor market flexibility. Stricter regulations can hinder firms' ability to adjust their workforce in response to changing market conditions or technological advancements, slowing down productivity growth. Next, labor market segmentation. Stricter regulation on permanent contracts can encourage firms to employ temporary workers, creating a two-tier system with less job security for later. Next, reduce work efforts. In some cases, workers may be less motivated to work hard or be absent more frequently after they reach the job security threshold. Overall, the impact of employment protection legislation is a complex and context-dependent, striking a balance between work protection and the labor market flexibility. Is crucial for achieving sustainable economic growth and ensuring fair labor practices. The distinction between the workers and ours. The distinction between the numbers of workers and the numbers of employees hours in a firm labor demand, emphasizing that changes in labor policies can affect this element differently. It highlights that the fixed hiring costs like training and benefits make hiring additional worker expensive, leading firms to prefer utilizing existing employees' hours instead of hiring new bodies, especially when the fixed cost increase, such as through new taxes for health insurance. This shift result in a substitution effects where the firms may lighten work weeks while reducing the number of employees. Additionally, the increase of marginal cost prompt firm to contract overall. Hiring fewer workers and hours evidence suggested firms do adjust their hiring strategies based on the relative cost and labor outputs as seen in the preference for full-time workers when hiring costs are significant and a decrease in part-time employment following protective legislation like in Great Britain. This slide emphasizing the distinction between the worker and ours. For example, we have a factory company. This particular factory company has a huge amount of worker. So since it has more workers, these some workers won't reach the 8 hours of minimum time to work. So para makatrabaho ka bilang ang iban, instead na 8 hours ang trabahoon, mahimo na lang 6 or 7 para makatrabaho ang uban. Since we have a government policy like pagkuha ng mga tax and then health insurance, yun mga 13th month pay, di ba sa government policy yaon. Ang lugi na niyaon is ang factory company. So, although same lang ang hours na gina-work sa all workers, but each workers have health insurance. So, kinsa ang magbayad na niyon, di ba? Ang company, damo siya nagbayaran ng mga health insurance, like, health insurance, then, yung mga 13th month pay, damuin niya releasan, so dakon chance na malugi ang company. So, this is the distinction between workers and hours. The job creation and job destruction. Contrary to the popular belief that the small firms are the primary drivers of job creation in the United States economy, research in the manufacturing sector reveals a different picture. While significant job creation and destruction occur simultaneously, with approximately 11.3% of manufacturing jobs disappearing and 9.2% being created annually. Large firms or those have 50 plus employees are responsible for the majority of both job creation, about 53%, and destruction is 56%. Furthermore, jobs created by a larger firm tend to be more stable with a higher probability of survival after 1 year compared to those created by smaller firms. This suggests that the large firm, not small firm businesses, are the dominant force in the United States manufacturing employment.